Joining me right now is former U.S. Attorney General Michael Mukasey. Good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good to be with you.
What are you expecting from Sessions today?
Well, I think he will welcome this as a chance to clear up a couple of misconceptions. One is about this issue of meetings with Kislyak. He did have a meeting in his office with Kislyak that was set up by the Obama State Department. It was one of about 20 or 30 meetings that they set up in his capacity as a member of the Senate Armed Services Committee. When he was asked at his confirmation hearing, I was there, he was asked at his confirmation hearing by Al Franken whether, and Franken was reading from a piece of paper, he said, I don't know whether this is true, but some surrogates of the president, and at that point Sessions said, well, I was one of the president's surrogates during the campaign. Some surrogates met with Kislyak. Did you meet with Kislyak? And he's thinking, presumably, did I meet with him as a surrogate of the president? And the answer was no. The question didn't appear to call for a reference to this earlier conversation.
Any meeting you've ever had?
Right. Not at all.
And in fact, that meeting was set up by the Obama administration.
The one in his office? Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was one of about 20 or 30 meetings that he had with foreign ministers in his capacity as a member of the Senate Armed Services Committee. And then he had a couple of handshakes at various social occasions. Is that a meeting? It's ridiculous.
But this is all sort of circling the wagons once again, continuing to circle the wagons over this alleged Russia story where there's absolutely no connection to the Trump administration. We know that there's no collusion and no evidence of that. Right. Meanwhile, in the hearing last week, I mean, you heard Loretta Lynch telling Jim Comey called the Hillary Clinton investigation a matter, not an investigation. Isn't that obstruction of justice right there? Well,
that's, I think, not obstruction because she's simply playing the same card that the Clinton campaign was playing. But that's some evidence that there may have been obstruction. I think
right. There may have been obstruction.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
I think the real obstruction was President Obama's statement that if you're going to make an obstruction case, President Obama's statement that he thought that she shouldn't be charged because she didn't intend to violate the law is the real clue to obstruction, because that's a statement by him that this is the way I want that investigation to come out. He was introducing an element that's not in the statute. You don't have to know you're violating the law. And he was saying that that was the way he wanted the investigation to end. Obviously, the Justice Department picked up on that, or would have been expected to pick up on that hint.
Now, Dianne Feinstein, Democratic lawmaker, says she wants to open an investigation into Loretta Lynch.
She said she wants to open an investigation into that statement by Loretta Lynch, that he should call it a matter. But I don't know whether she wants to investigate as far down as the rest of the iceberg goes. The statement, call it a matter, I think is just the tip of the iceberg.
Because then you're talking about getting President Obama involved.
Well, then you're talking about how come the Justice Department didn't use a grand jury, how come they interviewed her at the end, and then 2 days later, Jim Comey came out with a statement. I mean,
and it was not recorded, right, Judge?
Correct. The interview was not recorded. This was an unserious investigation. And the question then becomes why. So
then that's what I'm saying, though. All of this question about the potential for collusion, more hearings on the Russian meddling investigation. Meanwhile, we've got real wrongdoing right in front of us. The potential for obstructionism by Loretta Lynch. You've also got the unmasking by Susan Rice. I mean, these things are not followed up.
Right. I think it's also an opportunity for Jeff Sessions to clear up this question of why he recused himself. He recused himself because there's a regulation that says that if you work on a campaign and that campaign or people involved in it are the subject of an investigation, you have to get out of it. You can't make decisions with respect to that investigation. That was the reason, and the recusal statement says he's recusing himself with respect to the presidential campaigns. That's it. It was not connected to the Russia investigation, and the recusal was not based on any meeting that he had or any involvement that he supposedly had in the Russia investigation.
So you think this testimony today is an effort to set the record straight?
Certainly from his standpoint, yes, which is, I think, why he wanted to testify in an open session.
Let me ask you about the other legal defeat that we've been talking about this morning, President Trump's revised travel order. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals ruling against the executive order, again, upholding an injunction that prevents the administration from enforcing a suspension of travel from 6 mostly Muslim countries. Now, the judges are saying that the president violated U.S. immigration law by discriminating against people based on their nationality, and that the president failed to show their entry into the country would hurt American interests. Then you've got how the White House says it, and they're defending the order. Listen to this.
These are very dangerous times, and we need every available tool at our disposal to prevent terrorists from entering the United States and committing acts of bloodshed and violence. We continue to be confident that the President's executive order to protect this country is fully lawful and ultimately will be upheld by the Supreme Court.
Your reaction?
I think that this is going to the Supreme Court and that they will uphold the order. The court's saying that he didn't establish that their entry would harm the country is stepping way outside their function.
Because he's the president.
They are not supposed to second-guess his determinations about what will or won't help. That's an executive decision. The question is whether he violated the law in making that executive decision, and the answer to that is, I think, a resounding no. This non-discrimination issue is in a statute that relates to something other than an order like this, and has no effect on the president's power, and that power is plenary to control entry into the United States. And the only way to control entry into the United States is by making determinations based on where people are coming from.
Of course. Now, the president responded to this morning. He tweeted this. He says, well, as predicted, the Ninth Circuit did it again, ruled against the travel ban. At such a dangerous time in our country history, Supreme Court. So you think it is going to the Supreme Court. What about the broader issue here, Judge, in terms of everything this president does is being questioned, is being debated, is being pushed back? I mean, how are they going to get an agenda through when they can't even get the travel ban?
I think that they're going to have to obviously learn to do more than one thing at a time, and I think they can. But I think it's important to remember that a lot of this is kind of a legal sideshow. The important issues are being dealt with in Congress, and Congress can continue to do its work.
So you think Congress can get this done in 26 days? Because, I mean, now they're talking about 26 days.
That's a question for people who know a whole lot more about the way Congress functions than I do. I just think that you can't get obsessed with side issues to the point where you avoid dealing with issues that are really current.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll be watching the current issues today with Jeff Sessions. Judge Michael Mukasey, great to see you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for joining us.